Welcome to a fascinating journey with historical truth. Today we will unravel one of the greatest mysteries in human history. How did the Neanderthals survive harsh winters with temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius? The answer lies not in complex tools or sturdy shelters, but deep within their very bodies, a masterpiece of evolution forged over 300,000 years. Join me as we step into the time machine and explore the incredible journey of these enigmatic people. The wind howled across the endless ice fields, a piercing, frigid sound tearing through the early gloom. The temperature had plummeted to 40 degrees, a level that could cause a modern human to freeze in minutes. Yet, in a valley sheltered by limestone cliffs, stout, powerfully built figures moved with purpose. They were the Neanderthals, the ultimate survival experts of the Ice Age. The first and most important secret lay in their physique. The Neanderthal body was a perfect lesson in thermal geometry, following Allen's rule. With an average height of just 5'3", stocky torsos, short limbs, and bulging muscles, they had a much smaller surface area relative to their volume. This minimized heat loss to the environment. Imagine two pots, one tall and slender, the other short and wide, both filled with hot water. The slender pot cools down much faster. The Neanderthal was the short, wide pot. Every inch of shorter arm length, every dense muscle mass, was a perfect layer of living insulation. But their most special weapon was arguably their nose. Unlike the small, refined noses of modern humans, the Neanderthal nose was large, wide, and characteristically prominent. This was essentially a sophisticated heat exchange machine. Upon inhalation, frigid air was warmed and humidified as it passed through the spacious nasal cavity. Upon exhalation, moisture and body heat were partially recaptured, preventing the wasteful loss of water and energy. It was a perfectly insulated respiratory system that modern humans lack. Their skin also tells a fascinating story. In the faint light, their pale skin almost seemed to glow, helping to synthesize vitamin D more effectively under the weak sunlight. More importantly, their circulatory system had an exceptional ability to constrict peripheral blood vessels, pushing warm blood from the skin's surface deep into the body to protect the vital organs. Sometimes, red patches would appear on their faces or limbs. This was the body allowing a little blood to the surface to prevent tissues from getting frostbitten. However, no matter how perfect the body, it still needed fuel to sustain life. And this leads us to the next secret, the superpowered diet of the legendary hunters. In the flickering firelight of a cave, Korg, the leader of a Neanderthal group, used a sharp stone tool to cut dark red meat from the leg bone of a giant reindeer. This was not just food, it was life-sustaining fuel. Every piece of meat they consumed was the wood for the internal fire that kept their body temperature at 98.6 degrees Celsius amidst an ocean of ice. Neanderthals were incredibly efficient calorie-burning machines. Researchers estimate that an adult Neanderthal needed up to 3,500 to 5,000 calories per day in winter, nearly double the requirement of a modern human. And they got this massive energy intake primarily from meat. Their diet was almost purely carnivorous, focused on the giants of the Ice Age, the woolly mammoth, the woolly rhinoceros, the steppe bison, and reindeer. Hunting such large prey required special skills. Unlike Homo sapiens, who would later develop long-range hunting with sophisticated throwing spears, Neanderthals specialized in close-quarter, ambush tactics. They used heavy wooden spears tipped with meticulously crafted stone points known as mysterion. These spears were not designed to be thrown, but to be thrust. With their tremendous muscular strength, they would ambush their prey, driving the spears deep into vulnerable areas while dodging frantic kicks, stomps, and charges. It was a high-risk, life-threatening endeavor, but the reward was immense. After a successful hunt, they used every part of the kill. The meat was cut away, bones were smashed open for the fatty, nutritious marrow, a crucial energy source. Hides were tanned for clothing and shelter. Tendons were used for cordage. Fat, the most precious resource in winter, was used for food, light, and warmth. A single mammoth was not just a meal, it was a mobile supermarket, a complete survival warehouse. Interestingly, the cold, their greatest enemy, became an ally in food preservation. Large slabs of meat were stored in pits dug into the permafrost, acting as natural freezers. This lifestyle shaped their entire social structure. They lived in small, highly mobile groups, passing down intricate hunting knowledge through generations. But even with a plentiful food supply, they needed a true home to withstand weeks-long blizzards. And this is where we discover their astonishing architectural talents. In a vast, wind-scoured valley, a majestic structure rose from the snow. It was built from the giant rib bones of mammoths, arched like natural columns, with long tusks driven deep into the frozen ground to form a roof frame, all covered by countless animal hides meticulously sewn together. This was not a temporary shelter. This was a Neanderthal house. While a blizzard raged outside, the air inside the hut was surprisingly still and calm. The temperature was dozens of degrees warmer, enough to sustain life without burning a massive amount of calories. Korg and his clan sat around a small, carefully managed central fire pit, the warmth trapped within the enclosed dome structure. This mammoth bone house was a testament to their intelligence and incredible adaptability. Building such structures was a community effort. First, they chose a site sheltered from the wind, perhaps against a natural cliff face. Then, they transported dozens, even hundreds, of bones, tusks, and antlers from their kills. Mammoth leg bones were buried in the ground as main support posts. Giant curved ribs were erected to form the arched frame. Heavy jawbones reinforced the base. Every joint and connection was instinctively calculated, creating a structure with excellent load-bearing and weather-resistant properties. After the bone frame was complete, they draped it with carefully prepared hides. They used sharp stone tools to punch holes in the hides, sewing them together with sinew or leather thongs into large sheets. Finally, they weighed down the edges of the hides with large stones and covered the entire structure with a layer of snow. This snow, seemingly an enemy, became a perfect layer of insulation. Inside, the space was organized with remarkable efficiency. Separate sleeping areas lined with furs and dry grass, a tool-making area, and, most importantly, the central fire pit. The fire pit was often dug deep, with clever ventilation channels to let smoke escape without suffocating the inhabitants while retaining maximum heat. This was not just a place for cooking, it was the heart of the home, where people gathered, shared food, passed on skills, and strengthened social bonds. Homes like these show that Neanderthals had a more complex mental and social life than we once thought. They were capable of long-term planning, organized labor, and passing knowledge through generations. They were not brutish cave dwellers, but skilled architects who transformed seemingly useless materials into warm fortresses. However, even within these sturdy fortresses, they needed something invisible yet crucial: mental strength and community bonds. Inside the mammoth bone house, firelight danced, casting the shadows of stout figures onto the hide walls. An older woman began a deep rhythmic vocalization, mimicking the thunderous tread of a mammoth herd, the roar of a woolly rhino. Children with wide eyes sat circled around her, breathing in time with the rhythm. This was not just entertainment, it was a lesson, a ritual, an invisible thread of connection. In this harsh world, spiritual strength was as vital as food or fire. Neanderthals lived in small family groups of 10 to 30 members, tightly bound by kinship. This cohesion was the backbone of their survival. If a hunter was injured, others shared their food. If a mother died, other women raised her child. Archaeological evidence shows Neanderthal skeletons with long-healed injuries, or deformities that would have prevented them from hunting. Yet they lived for years, clear proof of compassion and community care. They had a rich spiritual life. Simple yet emotional burial rituals suggest they had a concept of death and perhaps an afterlife. They placed the deceased in a fetal position, sometimes sprinkling the body with colorful flowers, as evidenced at the Shanidar cave in Iraq, and buried them with tools or pieces of meat, provisions for a journey. Art was also present in their lives. They collected seashells with drilled holes from distant coasts, likely for personal adornment. They engraved abstract lines on stone and bone. Crayons made from red ochre have been found at many sites. The color red, of blood, life, and fire, likely held powerful symbolic meaning, used in rituals or for body painting. Their communication was undoubtedly complex. While they had no writing, they possessed the FOXP2 gene linked to language capacity, just like us. Their voices might have sounded different due to their vocal tract structure, but they were fully capable of using a rich system of sounds combined with nuanced body language to convey complex hunting skills, describe terrain, or tell stories of their ancestors. All of this, the tight-knit social structure, rituals, symbolism, and communication, created a psychological safety net. It helped them maintain morale during the long winter darkness, overcome the pain of loss, and pass precious survival knowledge through hundreds of generations. Yet, a major question remains. With all these incredible biological advantages and cultural adaptations, why did the Neanderthals disappear? What happened when they encountered our Homo sapiens cousins? Around 45,000 years ago, a new wave moved into Europe. Not a glacier, but Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors. This fateful encounter poses a puzzling question. If Neanderthals were so perfectly adapted to the environment, why did they vanish? Evidence shows the two species coexisted in Europe for thousands of years. There was conflict, but also peaceful encounters, evidenced by the Neanderthal DNA that still exists in most non-African people today. Interbreeding happened, but eventually, the pure Neanderthal lineage faded away. Scientists believe there wasn't a single cause, but a perfect storm of factors. Competitive pressure from Homo sapiens was key. Homo sapiens possessed more refined technology, like bone needles for sewing fitted clothing, and, crucially, sophisticated projectile spears that allowed for safer long-range hunting compared to the Neanderthals' high-risk close-quarter tactics. They also had broader social networks, exchanging materials and ideas over long distances, making them more flexible in adapting to environmental shifts. Complex climate change also played a major role. The Ice Age was not a period of stable cold, but included sudden warming and cooling periods. These fluctuations caused landscapes to change rapidly. The cold steppes favored by the large game were replaced by forests. The Neanderthals, overly specialized in hunting megafauna on open ground, struggled to adapt to new environments and more diverse food sources. Their fragmented social structure made them vulnerable. Neanderthal groups lived in isolation, with small population sizes. Any local disaster, a disease outbreak, an exceptionally long winter, or the local extinction of a herd could wipe out an entire group. With an already low birth rate, losing a generation was a devastating blow from which they could not recover. Most importantly, their very perfection became a critical weakness. The Neanderthal body required a huge caloric intake to maintain. When resources became scarce and unstable, that body became a burden. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens, with their more slender builds, had lower energy demands and more flexible diets, allowing them to survive hard times with less food. The disappearance of the Neanderthals was not a massacre, but more like a candle slowly burning out. Group by group, facing increasing competition, environmental change, and demographic disadvantages, they gradually vanished. Some may have been absorbed into the expanding Homo sapiens groups, but their legacy never died. The Neanderthal DNA within us is a silent testament to the interbreeding of two kinds of human, likely providing our ancestors with immune advantages as they adapted to new environments. The story of the Neanderthals is not one of failure, but of phenomenal adaptation over hundreds of thousands of years. They were the true masters of Ice Age Europe, the ultimate survivors. They teach us that in the struggle for survival, the most perfectly specialized are not always the final victors, and that diversity and flexibility are the true keys to long-term existence.